From the Wayne County Courthouse in Goldsboro, North Carolina, Wayne Goldsboro Television brings you the meeting of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners. The meeting begins shortly with an agenda briefing, then the regular meeting will begin soon after. Please stand by for the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting.
Let's call to order. This is our 8 o'clock briefing session. And going through here, we want to look at invocation. Commissioner Mayo, you're going to provide us the invocation?
Yes, sir.
And the Pledge of Allegiance to Commissioner Wayne Aycock.
Yes, sir.
Approval of the minutes. We've got the approval of the minutes of the December the 1st meeting as well as the Board of Adjustment meeting. And I assume there is no changes to the minutes, or has anybody reviewed the minutes to see any changes? If not, then we'll entertain at the appropriate time for the approval of the minutes. Discussion of agenda. Mr. Wood?
Okay, we've got special recognitions. We've got several of those. First one is a motion to award the badge and service sidearm to Major Darrell Overton upon retirement. Darrell's retiring at the end of this month. Then we have a motion to award a badge and service sidearm to Lieutenant Kenneth Lupton, also retiring.
And what we would want to do is to have those motions here before we go down.
Yes.
To actually award those.
That's right, and that's why we put them at the top.
So if somebody would make a motion, or you can divide that up, but we need two motions on that, is that correct?
Yes.
So we'll need a motion for someone from the board on Major Overton's service side and award his badge, as well as a separate one for Kenneth Lupton. And then after that motion, is we vote on that, then we'll go down and actually proceed on from there.
That's right.
You want to go ahead and decide now who's going to make the motion?
Well, that'd be a good idea. Who wants
Mr.
to?
Gurley, do you want to do?
Please.
Oh, you want to do both of them, or
I'll do Darrell if you do Ken.
is that all right?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna go with Wayne on Lupton and Joe on Darrell Overton.
Okay, then number 3 is the chairman will present a plaque and nameplate to the former chairman, Wayne Aycock. And then on number 4, I'll present the retirement plaque to Finance Director Pam Holt. And as y'all know, this is Pam's last meeting with you. She'll be retiring at the end of this month. And then the sheriff will be here to present the other 2 retirement plaques.
Commissioner Aycock, is Linda gonna be here?
She's supposed to be.
Okay.
She's.
I had some remarks I would like to make to her, so I was hoping she's gonna be.
Well, she's supposed to be.
Okay, good enough, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Next is the appointment committee, and I'm not sure.
We have a few.
Okay.
Can I go back up to, is there any other adjustments on the agenda? Did you have any things that you wanted to change on the agenda, or does any commissioner have anything?
Well, we do want, I think Cindy sent out an email to you yesterday. I think several of you have expressed concerns about the, either the phone or iPad. So we had a meeting with IT yesterday, and we'd like to, when we break here, because we think we can do the pre-meeting probably in about 20-25 minutes. I've got Chris Stone and Giorgio standing by, and you can just go into conference room there, and we want to have a brief discussion with you about which way you want to go with it, either a new iPad or a smartphone with a data program on that. And so I think 2 of you have already expressed what you want, but some of you I wasn't clear on. So we'd like to just, we felt like you ought to hear from the technical people and then make up your mind what you want to do, and that's all. So I figured 10-15 minutes in there and we'll be done with that. And Steve, it's not a closed session, so you're welcome to go back there.
Could I expand on that just a bit? I think what I heard from some concerns, and that was that I think most commissioners would like to know about meetings that are being scheduled, even though they are not a part of those meetings.
Yeah.
And we're trying to coordinate that in such a way that we all are informed as to the meetings, so that if you have any questions and so forth, you'll know who to contact and that type of
Right,
thing.
right.
So I think in the past that the meetings have been actually sent based upon who was attending. And so we're trying to expand that just a bit.
Yes, Chairman, the question that I had, I think Commissioner Pate on the iPhone, is that we can get everything on my iPhone except when Cindy or Marcia, whoever sends out an invite for the calendar, we're not able to get those messages.
We
Just-
think we've come up with a way to do that, so we're gonna,
Yeah.
that's why I want you to talk to the technical people.
Yeah.
Because I'm not proficient on that.
Well, I kept wondering why I didn't get Sheriff Pierce's invite and so forth, but that's sent out as you accept it on the calendar, and my iPhone doesn't have the software to do that.
Well, yeah, let us meet with them, and I
Yeah.
think we can talk about how
Yeah,
we can
that
do
was
something.
that was
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, and back to the appointment committee, we do have some appointments.
Right.
Was there any other adjustments to the agenda?
Not that I'm aware of. We do need a closed session, so we'll have that, and I think that's it.
And we're gonna have the closed session after we complete.
That's
the-
right.
The entire.
At the regular agenda.
That'll be the last thing, okay? Going on, as far as the appointment committee, we do have some appointments. Any unfinished business?
None that I'm aware of. I guess technically, we could have put the contract for the architect under unfinished business, but it's under new business, so we've got that.
All right. Under the consent agenda, what I'd like us to do going forward is try to discuss the consent agenda items during the briefing so that we have all of our questions answered during this particular portion of our meeting. And going into the actual regular meeting, then it's just a matter of a motion to approve the consent agenda. So as we go through, Mr. Wood, if we go through the consent agenda items.
Right. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, item number one is establish a public hearing on January the 19th at 9:30 to receive public comments on a new service road off of US 70 West. Extends from NC 581 south to Community Drive. The proposed name is Emmett Neal Road. The county, we've tried to send out and get petitions for road names since we don't have a petition from the landowners that's unanimous. We've got a proposal of Emmett Neal Road, and it would require a public hearing for comment. And we would post signs on site and advertise that public hearing.
And may I add?
Sure.
That name proposal that Chip's talking about came to me actually, and I forwarded it to Chip, and I worked the community some and asked around, and everyone's been in favor of. So Mr. Emmett Neal was a fine, outstanding man of the community.
That's, you know, Mr. Darling,
Go ahead.
we've got to be careful, because back when we went to the 911 system and all, you know, everything had to be named and all, and we made some big mistakes in the county by naming roads after businesses and all. That's a mistake, because a business will move, and then when you want to go change the name, the homeowners and property owners raise Cain, because it's expensive to change everything. So we've got to be careful on, you know, we won't have many new names come up like we did then, but we've got to be careful on how we name roads.
Okay. So we're just establishing a public hearing for that, correct?
To receive
All right.
comment, yes, sir.
Okay.
Chip, do you want to go ahead and handle number 5 while you're up there? Okay. While he's doing that, the 2, 3, and 4 are just the typical requests we get for these property tax exclusions, and all of those are in order. I'll be happy to go over any that you have a question on. Okay.
Number 5 is a petition for the addition to the North Carolina Department of Transportation State Road System of Glen Laurel Drive, Laurel Place, and Mona Place in the Glen Laurel subdivision. They've brought those streets up to state standards and have applied for them to be added to the state system. It needs your approval to be forwarded to DOT.
And Chip, while you're there, just on an informational note to the other members of the board, we are working on an amendment to our subdivision ordinance. And I think that's going before the planning board at their next meeting.
It's at the planning board now, and they're considering it, and they possibly will have a vote next month, and we'll have it back here next month.
Well, I think we all are concerned in regards to the fact that once these roads are built in a new subdivision, that they are in fact, there's something in our policy that would require that those roads be submitted to the NCDOT for acceptance. So we're trying to, going forward, not have as large problem as we currently have, but that's coming up next month, is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. It pertains to roads, but it doesn't have anything to do with you, Chip. You know, back in the early 2000s, we fought this tooth and nail trying to keep the state from moving roads down on us. What are we gonna do if they come back and want us to start taking care of roads
We're
again?
gonna say no. Well, in talking to the representatives, they really are really kind of commending us for being ahead of the game, so to speak, in trying to resolve these issues, and do not see it as as moving that on down to the counties. So they're looking at it as rather positive.
Just a comment too. I found out when we talked to them the other day, we're not the first to do this. This is going on in Johnston County now, before we started. I had no idea.
Yep, that's a good comment. All right, then we're gonna move on to the budget amendments.
Right.
Ms. Hope?
We have several on the consent agenda. The first one is for the sheriff, and it's $3,500 to anticipate and appropriate donations. The next one's for the sheriff to anticipate and appropriate an insurance refund of $17,000. The next one's for the sheriff for $20.21 to appropriate, anticipate controlled substance funds. The next one is for $2,000 to anticipate and appropriate donations for the sheriff. The next one's for the planning department. This is to reappropriate funds for final payment of the interchange utility study that was done by Dewberry. We owe the last two invoices. This purchase order was in last year's budget, and we just need to reappropriate the funds so we make the final payment. The next one is for the Department of Social Services. It's a negative $268,359. Is to adjust our original daycare funding to our actual funding that has come in for the year, so we had just over-anticipated it. And that doesn't mean that the state can't come back and give you more. We just try to keep it up to date. At this point, we need to reduce it. The next one is for the DSS, and is to increase amended grant revenues for several DSS grants of $67,000. The next one is for EdTap, and this is a negative $70,257, and is to adjust our original budget for the final North Carolina Department of Transportation funding for our road funds, and we've received those funds, so we need to get that budget in order. To Jetport for $704.46 to appropriate funds for our insurance refund. Wayne Net, $6,000 to reallocate salary accounts for extra help. That's just moving between line items. And the sheriff, $5,809 to anticipate and appropriate funds received for the SCAP program. And that's it under consent.
Any questions on any of the budget amendments? Not, we're moving on to new business. Ms. Wood?
All right, the next thing, I'm gonna ask Chip to come up and go over this ordinance regulating the operation and maintenance of solar energy facilities. He's been working on this, and we do need to set a public hearing date on that.
Okay. If you'll remember back at our October 18th meeting, the Board of Commissioners asked us that we did some research on solar facilities. There were some questions brought up about decommissioning and abandonment, and whether solar energy facilities were hazardous materials. So we went back, did some research, carried it to the planning board. They did some research. They studied it for a month, and we've come back with some recommended changes. We specifically looking at also airport notification was something we added in there. We looked at the state's model ordinance and took some language from the model ordinance of North Carolina that was an ordinance that was built by the North Carolina Department of Commerce, local and state employees that deal with energy, and solar facilities were participated in building that model ordinance. So it formalizes the notification process for the airports. We'll go over that if we go too real fast. We turn into the ordinance. You'll see we added to section 2, purposes and objectives, a D to facilitate the construction, installation, and operation of solar energy facilities in the county of Wayne in a manner that minimizes the adverse impacts to forestry, agricultural, commercial, and residential lands. This ordinance was not intended to abridge safety, health, or environmental requirements contained in other applicable codes, standards, or ordinance. The provisions of this ordinance shall not be deemed to nullify any provisions of local, state, or federal law. And in section 3, we added the definitions of abandonment and decommissioning in there. Abandonment is to discontinue or withdraw from any solar energy facility that ceases to produce energy on a continuous basis for 12 months is considered abandoned. Decommissioning is a document that details the planned shutdown or removal of a solar energy facility from operation. We changed the definition of a residential area from from 1/10 of a mile to 1/4 of a mile. That is an area that has at least 25 or more dwellings. We also changed the definition of a solar energy facility in that we included structural buildings, existing structural buildings or new buildings that may contain a commercial solar energy operation on top of the roof, not just a land-based. Section 5, we struck out item C for the notification of Seymour Johnson. We renumbered those. And moving on to section 8, we added, also there was not any provision in there for the developer to provide paper copies for planning board review of site plans. So we put in there 15 copies of 18 by 24 format. Section 9, it deals directly with the abandonment and decommissioning. Abandonment and SEF that ceases to produce energy on a continuous basis for 12 months will be considered abandoned unless the current responsible party or parties with ownership interest in the SEF provide substantial evidence updated every 6 months or after 12 months of no energy production to the planning director or his designee of the intent to maintain and reinstate the operation of that facility. It is the responsibility of the responsible party or parties to remove all equipment and facilities and restore the parcel to its condition prior to the development of the SEF. Upon determination of abandonment, the zoning administrator shall notify the party or parties responsible. They must remove the SEF and restore the site to its condition prior to the development of the SEF within 360 days of notice by the planning director or his designee. If the responsible party or parties fails to comply, the planning director or his designee may remove the SEF, sell any removed materials, and initiate judicial proceedings or take any other steps legally authorized against the responsible parties to recover the cost required to remove the SEF and restore the site to a non-hazardous pre-development condition. Decommissioning plan shall be signed by the party responsible for decommissioning and the landowner. If different, addressing the following shall be submitted prior to the issuance of the permit. Define conditions upon which the decommissioning will be initiated, the end of the land lease, no power production, abandonment, etc. Removal of all non-utility owned equipment, conduit, structures, fencing, roads, solar panels, and foundations. Restoration of the property to conditions prior to the development of the SEF. The time frame for completion of decommissioning activities. The description of any agreement with the landowner regarding decommissioning. The party currently responsible for decommissioning and plans for updating the decommissioning plan. And that deals with the decommissioning. Aviation notification, I'll just paraphrase this. It's pretty detailed. Seymour Johnson wrote the section on Seymour Johnson. It basically, you're notifying any military base that there's going to be a SEF constructed, solar energy facility constructed. If they request that a solar glare hazard analysis be run on it, And what that is a set of tools, engineering calculations that determines the amount of solar glare that an energy panel gives off that a pilot might see in his vision. If they request that, then the developer has to provide that to the base, and they have to get in touch with the base to get the details from the base for flight lines and elevations. Also added in there a section, if the base does not respond or gives us a clearance letter, then we don't require any, there's no reason to make the developer provide those tools, because there is an expense with that. The same thing applies for our municipal airports, which we have two. We'll notify the airport manager. If the airport manager and the FAA deem it's necessary to see SG hat tools, then they'll have to provide that report. Yes. We talked with the FAA, and at this time, they're not analyzing SG hat, but we did leave it in there because they probably will before it's over with. So it just formalizes the notification. Seymour Johnson did the portion on military. We adapted the same procedure for our municipal airports. Of course, we put in there any applicable design changes have to be resubmitted to re-evaluate those. And renumbered the rest of the sections.
Okay, are there any questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
On the part about the responsible party or parties, does that include the landowner?
It could include the landowner if they, in their decommissioning plan, agree to that. They can identify that person in the decommissioning plan. So far, we've been requiring a decommissioning plan ever since then anyway. It's always been the developer that's been listed. I did have a cost estimate for decommissioning a solar facility, and the amount of recycled materials there is worth more than the labor to remove the solar facility. So.
Commissioner Agon.
And the planning board, is this the planning board's recommendation?
Yes, sir.
And they were pretty much,
Yes, sir.
all of them on board?
It was approved, and it was also reviewed by one solar company.
Okay, all right. All right. These changes, will it go into effect if we vote on it immediately? Or what I'm getting at is solar farms or facilities that are already in the makes, in the loop, is it going to affect them or just from this point forward?
It would be, if once you adopt it, it would be from this point forward, but I'm already requiring, and there's little language in the ordinance that exists that requires any other information that the planning board may deem necessary. So under that clause, I'm already requiring a decommissioning, we're requiring a contract between the electrical company and the developer. So most of those are at least a 20-year lease at a minimum, and a lot of them have renewable options on the end. And then we're also, we got the decommission and the contract and the owner's disclosure statement, or the right for that solar company to represent the owner to purchase building permits.
Well, that's what I was getting at. We're already covered pretty much so.
Yes, we've been doing that.
That's where I was leading.
And we've been notifying the base. We had a section in there for notifying the base. It just was not the detailed information that the base would want.
Right.
Okay, any other questions for Chip?
A public hearing would be required.
Yeah, we're actually having a motion to establish the public hearing. And then we'll have the public hearing on January the 19th, and then after then is when we can actually vote on that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, the next item is motion to approve final subdivision plat for Ingram Fields, Section 3. We're working you hard today.
I'm telling you. If he wasn't on here, we could go home.
Sorry. Subdivision plat for Ingram Fields, Section 3. Owner developer is J&N Developers. Surveyor is Dan Butler. Engineer is Brian Jones. It's in the Fort Township on Charlie Brazel Road, SR 1235, lots 41 through 81. This is the last section of this preliminary here that was presented. Ingram Field Section 3 consists of 41 lots by extension of existing streets Ingram Fields Drive and Rustic Field Drive, and the construction of new streets Cottage Farm Drive and Hidden Maple Court. Subdivision is located off of Charlie Brownsville Road, 1/2 mile north of this intersection with Rosewood Road. Property is zoned residential RA20. It is a cluster development which allows for smaller lot sizes with dedicated open space, which this subdivision contains. This is the final section of the development. It's within the urban transition area on the Wayne County Growth Strategy maps. Improvements are on site or completed, and an NCDOT built to standards letter has been received by the county. It's in the Rosewood High School, Rosewood Middle, Rosewood Elementary School districts. It's in Fork Sanitary Water District. It's within the Oakland Fire District, EMS serviced by EMS Station 2. It is within the Goldsboro MPO for transportation planning. It is within a water supply watershed area. It is within a voluntary agricultural district. And there are no wetlands present. Board of Commissioners District 4. The Wayne County Planning Board recommends the plat to be approved.
Are there any questions? I do have one question, and that is, upon approval of this, based upon the acceptance of these roads after its development, will that clause apply to this particular subdivision?
It would not. However, on the plat, we already have a statement, a disclosure statement on this plat, as we have had, because we had the same little loophole in the subdivision ordinance. I'll just read it to you. It says, I, Stacy Johnson, am responsible for the construction, maintenance, and required road improvements of subdivision streets until approved or taken over by the North Carolina Department of Transportation for public roads, or B, approved, taken over by a homeowners association for private roads maintenance, or C, private road maintenance agreement is signed and recorded by its owners of each lot. His signature and date. Now, that's not quite the statement that we have proposed in our subdivision changes, but it is a statement that Johnston County was using. We required that statement on the last two plats that you have approved. So
we gotta have something there.
I went ahead and had something there, but we made some changes. We took out B and C. We just had one option.
We talked about that and felt like we ought to go ahead and put that in, so that we had that protection in place while we were trying to get the ordinance amended.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Chip. We're gonna move on to item 3, motion to approve the contract for H&H Architect.
If y'all will turn to page 81 in your packet, I've given you a memo on this, and I've included the entire agreement with the architect. At the last meeting, you had authorized the county attorney and me to negotiate the architectural services contract with H.H. Architecture, PA, for the full design of the Wayne Regional Agricultural and Convention Center. We've done so, and that is what is enclosed in your packet. The fee for basic services, and I want to point out, this includes contract administration, which is the about once a week inspection. It also includes approving the pay estimates that come in from the CMAR, and also review of any proposed change orders, reviewing of shop drawings and things like that. It's at 8.25% of the final cost of the project. So the design, typically contract administration is somewhere around 50 to 75 basis points. So I think we're getting a very good fee structure here. For interim payments, we'll use the architect's estimated cost, but we will true up within 30 days of project completion on the actual construction cost, because as y'all know, typically the architect has some padding in there, and in fact, if you go to page 103, you'll see down at the bottom of the page, you see the estimated construction budget. Does everybody see that?
103.
Yeah, 103. Down at the bottom third of it. Mm-hmm. You have an estimated construction cost of $15,879,311, but you have a construction contingency of 3%. So we're basing the estimated payments on $16,355,691, but we will true that up at the end. So before we make the final payment, we'll make that adjustment. And if we haven't had change orders equal to 3%, then we'll get a discount right there. But that's why I like to use actual construction cost, because you don't know if you're gonna have adds or deducts on your change orders during the contract. And again, this is an estimate, these are not based on bids. And what we wanna go by is the actual cost, which is when you get the subcontractor's bids. You know. And so when you have the subcontractor's bids and the CMAR contract, that's the total project cost. Okay. Just wanted to note for you too, that on, let's see, on page 102, if you'll back up one section. If y'all recall, we had a number of things that were outside the basic services contract too that come to mind is, we asked her to do some architectural renderings that were color and that sort of thing. And also, we asked her to do at least 5 presentations as we were to donor groups, potential donors. And we had a few other things in there as well. But all of those, we went through systematically, went through everyone and said, should that be included or not included in the basic fees? So there are some basic fees in addition to the 8.25, just as there were before. So we've gone through that in a very detailed way. In fact, we went through every one of them item by item. So the other thing I'd show you is on 103, again at the bottom. This is the schedule. The estimated schedule is she can complete design documents in 22 weeks. That's roughly about 5 months, which is what we had been talking about. And then we're figuring about 6 months to go through owner, city, and Department of Insurance review. And hopefully we can do better than that, but basically these things are kind of out of their control. And the reason the city's in there is, of course, the facility is inside the city limits, so the city's building inspection people will be doing the work on that. Okay. And then construction is about 70 weeks. And if you do the math on that, that's roughly 16 and a half months, which is a little better. We had been thinking it was going to be 18, but she thinks we can do this. Now, we'll refine that schedule once we get the CMAR on board, because that's one of the things they do. So on the next page is 104. When you do all of that math, this lays it out for you what the total fee will be with the add-ons as well. So that's the total pricing structure right there. And all of this is in Appendix A. I'd encourage you to read Appendix A because it lists what the scope of work is, but also what's not included, so that if we wanted any of those services, they're on an added fee basis. But I think we've got everything covered on it. You also have detailed cost breakdowns on page 106 and 107. And you add those two together. 106 is the actual construction. You'll notice that matches up the numbers that were in the fee. And then the back end is 2.698. That's what we call soft cost. Of course, it has the architect's fees in there. But it also, if you notice the last 3 lines, has over $1.1 million in construction materials testing, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and then the audio-video system. So those are all estimates, and there'll be individual contracts with other vendors. So with that, that's everything we have. Does anybody have any questions on it?
Any questions? Commissioner Martin?
Just looking through the pages, I think on page 104, in that column up there, beginning with, that comes down to the $1,349,000. I was struck by the fact that construction documents and construction administration both equal exactly the same amount of dollars.
Yeah.
And anytime I see something like that, it just sort of raises the flag to me that I wonder if it was something that you could narrow it down to the same penny, or it was a repetition of a reproduction of a dollar figure to reach a certain Bottom line.
She just split them. It's actually to your advantage because typically construction admin would be less than the construction documents. And this affects when we pay it. So we wouldn't be paying this till further along into the actual construction administration.
So she did us a favor by splitting?
By splitting it equally. She could have easily put some more of that in construction documents. But if she had, I'd have had to pay her earlier for that portion of it. See, when you get bills from the architect, it's based on the percentage of completion on all of these. And you'll see, like, the first one is schematic design. We've completed that, so we've paid her 100% on that to date. But these others, we've paid for some of it, but not all of it yet. And that's what we're getting ready to do.
Thank you, sir, but without knowing that, it just looked,
Yeah,
look, I'm just to the layman out there.
Yeah.
Just to a person just looking at it. If you're building something for me and you charge me the exactly the same dollar for two different things, I'm gonna start looking at your cross-eyed.
yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
she just divided those into.
One other, just an observation, just for the heck of it, Mr. I estimated the cost of the jail and the convention center together and just multiplied that by 8.25%. And just for the sake of argument, we might be able to afford our own architecture firm cheaper than we can go outside. And I'm not joking about that, Mr. Chairman. Knowing your propensity to watch for the dollar very closely, I would like you to entertain that one of these days. I'm not kidding.
Thank you. Commissioner Mayor. Just a matter of information, can someone give me an update? I know that our legislative delegation is trying to get a grant or money for the Convention Ag Center. Does anyone have any update on that? What's the latest?
I would just say it'll probably be next year if anything does happen. We're still hoping, but it's not there yet.
We're still working on it. I think that was
Okay.
the answer.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No, we ain't got it in the bank yet, let's put it that way.
Well, that was my question.
Any other questions?
Chairman Daughtry, I would request that you also include a budget amendment to move into a specific line item. The funds are already appropriated for the project, but we just have it in construction. I'd like to move it into and just an architectural line item, if you can say an appropriate budget amendment.
I assume that Commissioner Pate is going to be making that motion.
I'll be writing this down, and appropriate budget commitment.
I did have one question, and that is on the farmer's market here. We had $27,000 in there, and I believe she is providing all of that at no cost.
She's providing hers at no cost. This is the plumbing and electrical, and that can go down. The reason that there's more in there is the one we're patterning it after has a kitchen. And so there's more to it than a typical building. So if we want to cut out those parts, I think we can get this number down.
All right, so that's not locked in. It's,
No, but when we met with her, she said she would take her fee out, but she couldn't absorb what they were going to charge her, which we thought was fair.
Okay. All right. If there are no other questions, we're going to move on. All right, moving over to item 4. Motion to reject all bids for lease of farmland at Park East.
Yeah, as I said in my memo to you, we had a little bit of a mix-up on the, on what was to be included in that, and I'll take some of the blame for that. But what we're recommending is that you reject the bids, because we did take formal bids on it, so you have to deal with them one way or the other. So we're recommending you reject the bids and authorize us to rebid it, now that we have everything squared away on what we're bidding.
All right, any questions on that? Who's going to be making that motion? Would somebody like to make the motion?
I do.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, and then move on to item 5, budget amendments.
Pam, do you want to go over that?
Yes, sir, we have one budget amendment on the regular agenda, and it is for $100,000 for the sheriff. It's to appropriate funds for an insurance deductible.
Okay,
Since I'm on roll, I'll make that motion to.
all right. And then on to item 6, motion to approve moving the public comment time to 9:15.
Yeah, I think, did you want to cover that, or you want me to?
Well, you can, go ahead.
Okay. Basically, what we're recommending is that we change the public comment time to 9:15. The recommendation for that is because a number of people may want to come in and address an issue that's on the agenda. So it makes sense to let them comment early in the meeting before you start voting on things. And that's the theory behind it.
Okay, any comment on that? All right, who will be making that motion? Okay, thank you, Warren. Today, we're having the public comment time at 10 a.m. And then I have that disclosure that is now being described. And then moving on to county manager's comments.
Right. I'll have some of those at the meeting.
Okay. And then the Board of Commissioners' comments. And then moving on to closed session, which will be our last item, then we'll come back in for adjournment. Any other comments or discussion in regards to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Merrill.
I wanted to address, I noticed that we agreed to have some time limits set, some targets for different items on the agenda. The one I take a little bit of exception to is the Board of Commissioners Committee reports and comments. A total of 15 minutes total, which gives about 2 minutes per commissioner. In some cases, I think that would be appropriate, but this time, in my view, is a time that a commissioner can relay to the public information and concern a meeting. Like, for example, I'm on the Health Board and the DSS Board, but the Health Board in particular, if there is a particular item that could affect the county, I would like to be able to comment on that, and I know I can. But what about the other concerns that may affect our citizens that we have a right as an elected official to do? I would like to use this time, and I do, as a matter of transparency to the citizens of Wayne County. And I do get text messages and comments sometimes from the comments that I make during this comment time. I also believe that it's a time that the citizens of Wayne County can get to know us as a commissioner, what makes us tick. I would recommend that we remove any time limit from the agenda for the Commissioners' Committee reports and comments. Keeping in mind that it may be 10 minutes one meeting and 2 minutes the next meeting, but not to inhibit a commissioner the time that he feels is necessary. Whether we like their comments or not, we need and we do have the right as commissioners to make those comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I do understand your comments, but as chair, I feel like that we need to move our board meetings along. I have discussed this with others, and generally the comments that are made by commissioners need to be very brief and to the point, and it is not a time for I think we've been going into way too much detail in regards to our individual activities, and we can't be spending 45 minutes and an hour making comments. Some people have even approached me saying that it's almost as if we are campaigning on the county's time. So we're just trying to be brief, concise, and being able to move our meetings along. And surely, if there is in fact something that is of pressing needs that needs to be discussed, we would ask that commissioners adjust the agenda to include topics that are so pressing. That said, the intent is not to in any way inhibit you communicating those pressing things to the citizens. It is a matter in which of moving the meeting along. So, at any rate, With that said, what we'll do is we'll go into recess and come back into session as of 9 a.m. I think we've got a
Mr.
meeting.
Chairman.
Yes.
One brief thought that might help this. When you're watching what happens at the federal level, oftentimes when folk have something they want to get over to their constituency, they will be in the chambers by themselves and speaking to the camera, and that information can be relayed on to their constituency. So I suggest that if someone has a message that they would like to get out to a specific public, we might consider them being able to come in here and film themselves, and then the TV station put it on as an individual opportunity to share something with your constituents, and that might alleviate the problem of our meetings being longer, but a person could still get a message over to the public through the accessing the TV station
Mr. Chairman.
on an individual basis.
Just one.
Yes, Commissioner.
Just one other comment on that. I take a little bit of an issue that the public has 4 minutes and the commissioner has 2. And to me, in order for us as commissioners to inform the citizens, if you remember in my comments a lot of times, I don't go into a lot of board meetings except at certain times. It's a time for the citizens to get to know us. I think the citizens need to know us off this board. What are we like? What makes us tick? I believe that we have the right as an elected, and responsibility as an elected official to the citizens of Wayne County to be allowed the time that it takes to do that.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Yes.
In the interest of time, we need to hold this other meeting, but y'all have time to debate this at the regular meeting.
Okay, good enough. All right, we're in recess then until 9 a.m.